Yeah, so we're live on YouTube. As you come in, just share the live, share, share the live to your class group, share the live to your WhatsApp. Um, so we're doing some serious revision today, some serious revision. All right, so let me just do some quick sharing. Just confirm that you're hearing me, and then we'll begin. Just confirm that you're hearing us loud and clear. Does everybody hear me? Looking at the chat for confirmation. Good. So everybody's saying loud and clear. So in a few we'll begin. Share the live on I don't know, WhatsApp, TikTok, wherever you would normally share it. And in a few minutes, in about a minute or so, we'll begin. So for those of you wondering what we will be doing, we're looking at all of the number two questions across the various years. And this, if you know, if you've been practicing, you will know that number two specifically targets algebra. So we'll be basically be looking at everything under the sun as relates to algebra for CSEC and everything that you need to know for algebra. So I trust that at the end of the session, um you'll be clear or somewhat a bit clearer on algebra and everything as it relates to algebra. So if you have your past paper book, you can start with, I think I'll be starting from 2021 all the way up to 2026 January. All right. Somebody's in new to the class. Okay. All right. So let me get started. I think I shared it in all of the different places. So just tell me what school you're from. Drop your school in the chat. I can have an idea of who we have with us today. So let's get started. So let's get started. So we're looking at all of the number twos from 2021 all the way to 2026, January 2026, that is. All right. So let's go. So we're asked to factorize. All right. The first thing they want us to tackle is factorize. So there are mainly three ways that you can factorize a quadratic. Those three ways, mainly three ways. We got the difference of two squares, we have using the AC method, and we have using distributive law method. Um, that those are the three main ways that you can find. I mean, we have perfect square and some, but you can also use the AC method to factorize, as a perfect square. But nevertheless, so we are asked to factorize this. So we see we have two terms. We have two terms, and the terms are subtracting each other. And from the time you see two terms and they're subtracting, your mind should immediately jump to difference of two square. But also the two terms should be square terms, meaning we should be able to multiply something by itself to give you one. And the same thing for t squared. You should be able to multiply something by itself to give you t squared. So to factorize this for 1 mark, we know we simply all right, somebody's saying they can't hear. Can everybody hear me? Just double checking. Somebody's saying they can't hear. So if you can't hear, if it's you alone, that means you probably have to turn up your volume, right? Make sure your volume is up. So to factorize this, we just open two brackets simply. And in one bracket, in the first bracket, we ask ourselves, what can we multiply to give us 1? So we know 1 times 1 will give us 1. So we just put this one here and the one here. And then the same thing for t squared. We ask ourselves, what can you multiply by itself to give you t squared? We know t times t will give us t squared. So we just put a t here and a t here. And difference of two square in one bracket, you will add. And in the other bracket, you will subtract. As easy as that, nice and easy. 1 mark to get the blood flowing. All right, so from the time you see two terms and they're subtracting, just factorize as difference of two square. All right. All right, so everybody's hearing. So next one, you're asked to simplify, well, expand and simplify the following expression. So you're asked to expand and simplify. So one thing we should know whenever we are expanding or whenever we're simplifying, let's talk about the expanding first of all. So we see we have to expand these two brackets, meaning we have to use the distributive law. And many students tend to get confused and mix up how we expand these brackets here. So an easy way to do this would be, all right, good question. Somebody asked. Let me just scroll back. So does it matter where the plus or minus is? No, it doesn't matter. So this can be minus and this can be plus, or this can be plus and this can be minus. It doesn't matter. You'll get the same thing. All right. Just make sure that in one bracket is adding and the other bracket is subtracting. All right. That is a very good question. All right. Excellent question. So it doesn't matter. Just make sure one is adding, one is subtracting. So let's go. Let's go to this expansion now. So a nice way to expand when we have two brackets multiplying each other, a nice thing to do would be to take the first term in the first bracket, which is 4r, and then you multiply it by everything in this bracket here, the second bracket. So this would be 4r multiplied by 3r plus q. And then we take the second term in the first bracket again, which is in this case a minus 5q. Now, the term is always governed by the sign in front, all right? So this is a minus 5q or negative 5q if you want to think of it like that. And then this will be multiplied by everything in this bracket, in the second bracket again. So this will be 3r plus q. And then put back the plus 3qr. And now we simplify, we multiply this here. Now we use a distributive law and simplify. So this will be 4r times the first term. So 4 times 3 would give us 12. R times r would give us r squared. And then this would be 4r times 4r times q. So 4r times q would give us, this would be plus 4qr. And then we do the negative 5 times everything in the second bracket. Well, same bracket. So this would be negative 5q times 3r. So negative times a positive will give us a negative. 5 times 3 would give us 15. And q times r would give us qr. And then we do negative 5q times q. So negative times a positive would be a negative. 5 times, well, this is 1 will give us 5, and q times q will give us q squared. And then we put back the plus 3qr. And then we put the like terms together. So this is the key thing. Whenever you're grouping like terms, there's a key thing you should always remember when you're grouping like terms. Especially when you're just shuffling them around, the sign in front of the term will always remain that sign. So for example, regardless of where you move this term here, it should always be a plus 3qr. Regardless of where you move this one here, around the term, it should always be a minus 5q squared. A minus should always be in front of it. So let's put the like terms together. Like terms are all the terms that got the same variable and raised to the same power. So we can put all these squared terms first. So this will be 12r squared. We can put the minus 5q squared. And then we can put all these like terms together here. So this would be plus 4qr, well, we can minus this one time. So 4 minus 15, that should give us 4 minus 15, that should give us a negative 11. And then we can put back the QR. And then this will be added to this here. So plus 3QR. And then this will be, the final answer will be 12r squared minus 5q squared. And then when we add these two now, negative 11 plus 3, negative 11 plus 3, that would give us a negative 8. Negative 8, and we put back the QR. Let me just double check this on my calculator. Uh, I just want to double check on the calculator, right? So it's correct. So this will be our answer when we simplify this. How are we looking so far? All right, how are we looking so far? So Destiny, it doesn't make sense. She can't hear this. What Destiny? Somebody should advise her to to leave, leave, turn off her phone, or if she's using phone, turn down back, turn up the volume, and then join back, right? Because Destiny is just you alone, all right? It's just you alone, Destiny. Somebody advise her in the chat. So that is for that, right? How we looking? How we looking, folks? All right, so as you see the questions, you can work them before me and then wait for my explanation as you see them on the screen. All right. But if you want to work in advance and just work in all of the algebra questions from 2021 all the way to 2026, hopefully we'll finish. So the next one here asks to solve this inequality. So we have so I work this here, negative 4p plus 3 less than or well greater than or equal to 19 plus 2p. All right, then we're asked to solve this inequality. So one thing when you're solving inequalities, it's just like if you solve an equation. All right, the same steps that you would follow to solve an equation, the same thing. So let's put all the terms with p on this side of the inequality. So this will be minus 4p, and we carry over this this plus 2p, it will become minus 2p, and this will be greater than or equal to, we'll put back the 19. And then we take over this plus 3 to become minus 3. So we work this out. So negative 4p minus 2p, that would give us a negative 6p is greater than or equal to, so 19 minus 3, that would give us, 19 minus 3 would give us 16. Is that correct? 19 minus 3 is 16. So To answer this, now this piece we want to be very careful with. All right, we want to be very careful with this last piece here. So this last piece is telling us we have a negative 6p is greater than or equal to 16. So we want to solve for p. That means p should be by itself. So here's the thing. Whenever you're at a step like this and you're dealing with inequality, this is the only difference with the equation. And you have to, when we take over this negative 16, it's multiplying, and we take it over, it will divide. Whenever you have to divide or multiply by a negative number, you always flip the inequality signs. This is the only thing you have to remember that is different from equation. Whenever you have to multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality sign. So this will actually be P is less than or equal to 16 divided by negative 6. Because we have to divide by this negative 6, we have to flip the inequality sign. That is the only difference. And most times the questions don't come like this, but you never know your luck in your yearly exam. But this is something that you should know. So this will be P is less than or equal to 16 divided by negative 6. That would give us a negative 2.67. Hence, that is the answer here. Negative 2.67. All right, how are we looking? How are we looking, folks? How are we looking so far with the algebra? Somebody asked what grade class is this? This is CXC maths, right? How are we looking, folks? We cooking? Cooking? All right, so let's proceed. So the next one says, determine the largest integer value of p that satisfy the inequality at C1. So which is this answer here, right? The largest value of p. So they told us p is less than or equal to negative 2.67. And they want the largest integer that can satisfy this inequality. So we know integers would be positive and negative whole numbers if you want to think of it like that. So the largest integer that can satisfy this answer here, the next integer that is less than or equal to negative 2.67 would be, the next integer after that would be negative 3. And this is the largest integer that can satisfy this here. All right, that is the next integer. That is the closest integer to this answer, and it's the largest one. After this, you will have negative 4, negative 5, and so on. And of course, negative 3 is the largest one out of all of them. Since the answer is negative 3 there. All right, so that is that. Let's proceed. So far we touched on solving inequalities. We looked at simplifying algebraic expressions, and then we looked at a bit of factorizing. So let's touch on, let's see what else we have here. So as we go down the years, these years, the years will vary, right? So that was probably 2021 January. Now we're probably in 2021 May, right? I think. But we're working through all of the questions on the algebra from 2021 to 2026 January. So let's go. This one says the diagram below shows a right angle triangle with its dimensions given in terms of x. So for the right angle triangle, show that x squared plus 4x minus 45 is equal to 0. So we're asked to show, we are basically asked to work out something from this triangle and arrive at this answer here. That's what I mean by show. Show means you're working towards this answer. All right. So you have to do something to get that answer. And this is the part that students typically struggle with. Is it something that you have to do? What is that something? All right, so what is this something? The thing is, we know we're dealing with a right angle triangle. And from the time you're doing CSEC and you know you're dealing with right angle triangle, there's a P word that should come to your mind immediately from the time you see right angle triangle. All right? Can anybody tell me what that P word is in the chat? What is that P word that you should always, when you see right angle triangle, should always come to your mind? What is that P word? Let me see who will get it first, and I'll call out that person. Word begins with P. Good. See Leela. Leela, right? Excellent, Leela. All right, Leela is locked in. All right. So big up to Leela. She got it first. So the Pythagoras theorem should always come to your mind. So the Pythagoras theorem states the square of the longest side is equal to the sum of the squares of the two remaining sides. Somebody said they don't know how to spell it. All right, you gotta do is song it out, right? Song it out and spell it out song. So the square of the longest side, so the longest side is always the side opposite the right angle. So if the right angle is here, the longest side would always be this side here. All right. So it says the square of that side. So we'll square that side, which is 2x plus 3. We square that is equal to the sum of the squares of the two remaining sides. So this will be 12 squared, because this is the remaining side, plus, since it's sum, x squared. All right? And that is that. So now all we have to do is work out this, and we will end up with this answer when we finish simplifying this. So we see we have to do some distribution. We have to use the distributive law again. So this is 2x plus 3. We have to square that. The whole thing is squared. So a mistake that students do when they have to square brackets like this, a mistake that they do, they go and put 2x squared plus 3 squared. All right, this will be absolutely wrong, 100% wrong, right? When you're squaring a bracket, the bracket has to multiply itself. So this will be 2x plus 3 multiplied by 2x plus 3. All right, and this will be equal to, when we square 12, we'll end up with 1/4 of 4, and x squared will simply be x squared. So we have one bracket multiply the other. All right, so we take the first term in the first bracket, just like what we did just now. Students tend to mix up how to use the distributive law when you have one bracket multiplying the other, but I'm telling you an easy way to do this is to take the first term in the first bracket, which is 2x, and then multiply it by everything in the second bracket. So this will be multiplied by 2x plus 3. And then you take the second term and you do the same thing. So the second term would be plus 3 multiplied by 2x plus 3. And this will be equal to 1/4 of 4 plus x squared. So we use the distributive law now, multiply 2x times 2x, 2 2's 4, x times x is x squared. 2x times 3, 2 3's 6. So this will be plus 6. And put back the x, and I use the 3 now. 3 times 2x will give us, well, positive times a positive is a plus. So 3 times 2 is 6x again. And then 3 times 3 would give us 9. So this will be plus 9. This is equal to 1/4 of 4 plus x squared. So remember, we are working towards its answer. So whenever we don't simplify, we should have that answer. So we simplify this now. So we take over everything over on this side, so that 0 will be left on this side. So this 0 becomes, so we put back the 4x squared. And when we take over this plus x squared, it will become minus x squared. And where we add 6x and 6x, that will give us plus 12x. And then we put back the plus 9, which is this 9 here. And then we take over the 1/4 of 4. It's a plus 1/4 of 4 to become minus 1/4 of 4 is equal to 0. And we took over everything on this side. So we work this out, 4x squared minus x squared. This will give us 3x squared. And we're left with the plus 12x. And 9 minus 1 for the 4. That would give us minus 1 to the 5, and that is equal to 0. So as you can see, this does not look like the thing that they asked us to show. But if we look at it good, we have to do something to this equation to make it look like exactly what we have at the top here. So let me ask the chat now. What do you think we should do with this equation so that it looks like this at the top here? Let me see who will get it for us in the chat. Let me pick up that person. What do we do to this here so that it looks exactly like this? All right, so I see Lakshan. All right, Lakshan says divide, hope I pronounce the name right. Divide by 3. All right, very good. All right, very good. So we divide everything by 3. And just like if we reduce a fraction, if we got 2 over 4, and we have 1 over 2. 2 over 4 is the same as 1 over 2. All we need to do is divide, 2 ones 2, 2 into, well, 4 divided by 2 is 1 over 2. So the same thing as it relates to an equation. We can divide an entire equation to reduce it, just like how we do with a fraction. So we divide every single thing by 3. All right, every single thing by 3. So 3x squared, that would become x squared. 12x divided by 3, that would become plus 4x. And 1 to the 5 divided by 3 would give, well, negative 1 to the 5 divided by 3 would give us negative 4 to the 5. And hence that would be equal to 0. And hence, that is how we show that. And we put a little QED at the bottom. Just, say that we're finished. And that is our answer there. How are we looking, chat? How are we looking? We looking good? So remember, for show, when a question says show or prove, that is what you're doing. You're working towards this answer. You have to do something to get that answer. This is where you have to put on your thinking cap. This is where we separate the sheep from the goat, or the sheep from the goats. All right. So that is that. So let's continue now. Maybe if you're good, you drop a little heart, and so you can see the heart, so you can know that we learning and we impacting lives. So let's go. So now let's be back to factorizing now. So this one says factorize completely. And earlier in the video, for those of you who are in earlier, I said that there are mainly 3 ways in which you can factorize. And in this question, we look at the other ways. So we have xy squared minus x squared y. And we're asked to factorize this, right? Factorize it completely. So we ask the chat, I probably can give people some time to work. How do we factorize this? What do we do? Somebody tell me quick. Let me shout out that person. This will go for 1 mark, this will go for 2 marks. Excellent. So I see Ray, I'll call you by your first name, the first visible name, because everything. So Ray said it for us. And Ragubir has the correct answer, I think. So yeah, we pull out the common factors, right? We can't use difference of 2 square, although they're subtracting. We cannot use difference of 2 square because we can't multiply anything by itself to give you xy squared. And the same thing here, we can't multiply anything by itself to give you x squared y. So we see what is the highest common factor between the two. So we can take it term by term. So we look at the x, we look at the x squared, we see the highest common one is x. And then we look at the y's. So we have y squared and we have y by itself here. So the highest common factor there would be y. So we factor out xy from both terms. We factor out xy from the first term. It's like we have xy squared divided by xy. Because that is what you're doing when you're factorizing. You're dividing by the highest common factor. So this x will cancel out with that x. This y will cancel out with one of this y. So we're left with y in the second term minus. And then we factor out x squared y. When we factor out xy from it, this y will go with that y. This x will go with one of this x. So we just left with the minus x. And that is our answer for one and easy mark. One easy mark. And that is your answer there. So that is that. That is an easy mark. If you see this, smile in your exam. And as you come in, share the live to your WhatsApp, your groups that you're in. You know, it will be very beneficial. Don't just learn by yourself. Don't keep the knowledge to yourself. Share it to your WhatsApp group. Share it on WhatsApp. Share it in your TikTok groups. All right. So let's go. The next one says 3x squared plus x minus 10. We asked to factorize that. How do we factorize that? Let me ask the chat again. Let's use force. So we'll drop it force. This is a favorite method, man. This is a favorite for students. All right, good. See Ragubir and Tristan and Rihanna. What was his last name? All right, so yeah, the AC method, right? The beautiful AC method, the method that students know and love and cherish close to their hearts. So let's go AC method. So the thing about the AC method, the first thing we want to do is identify what is A, B, and C. So the reason why this is called the AC method, because this is what we call quadratic expression. It's in the general form ax squared plus or minus bx plus or minus c. So the first thing we need to do is identify what is a, b, and c. So a is the number in front of the x squared term. So we see a here is equal to 3. A is not the first term. A is the number in front of the x squared term. Students tend to mix up and put whatever is the first term, they're going to put as a. But a is the number in front of the x squared term. And b would be the number in front of the x term. And in this case, the number in front of the x term, we don't see any number. So we know it's a 1 there. And the last one, c, is the number by itself. So we see the number by itself here. You see this 10 is by itself, but it's just not a 10 alone. We have to take the sign in front of the 10 as well. So it's a negative 10. So c is equal to negative 10. So the AC method dictates that we multiply a by c. So a times c would be 3 times negative 10, which will give us a negative 30. And then since we already use a and c, the next thing we want to do is we want two numbers. Two numbers, when we multiply it, we should get this AC. And when we add those two numbers, we should get whatever b is. So we see b is 1. So those two numbers have to be close to each other. So I'm thinking like 5 and 6. 5 times 6. And since it's a negative, one has to be positive, one to be negative. So I can try negative 5 times 6. That would give me a negative 30. A negative 5 plus 6. That would give me a positive 1. All right. So These are the two terms I'm using, and these are the two terms I'm replacing the x with. So this will now be 3x squared minus 5. And we put back, whatever variable we have there, we put it back. So minus 5x plus 6. And you put back the variable as well, minus 10. So all we did, right? All we did, this is a glorified way of expanding, this middle term. But it's just to make sure that we have the correct thing to when we're doing the expansion so that we don't change the value of the expression. So then we factorize this now. We pair off the two terms. I know some people tend to rearrange and so on. I don't need to rearrange, just pair them off. And then we factorize each bracket individually. So we see in the first bracket, we have 3 and 5. Those, we don't have any common factor there. Then we have x squared and we have x. So we see x is common. So we factor out the x. We don't have anything else in common. So when we factor out the x from the first bracket, well, the first term, this is like we got 3x squared divided by x. This x will go with one of this x. So we're left with 3x. And then we factor out the x from the second term. So this is easy to see. When we factor the x from the second term, this x will go. So we're just left with minus 5. I put back the plus, we factor out the plus. When you factor out plus, nothing will change, right? Plus is a nice thing to multiply with and divide. The plus doesn't impact anything. If it's a negative now, there's a different story. But plus, when it's positive, gone clear. So we have the 6 here, or you have the 10, well, minus 10. So we see a common factor is there. And that common factor can probably be 2. So we factor out the 2. We factor out 2 from 6x. 6x divided by 2 would give us 3x. And factor out 2 from negative 10. Negative 10 divided by 2 will give us a negative 5. And hence, and once we see our two brackets are the same, that means is either we go in very correct, we go in very wrong. But most times it means we're going correct, right? Unless, some strange coincidence, you made a series of error and, you magically got these brackets to be the same. But you want these two brackets to be the same. If these two brackets are not the same, the signs, everything should be identical. Everything should be the same. If they are the same, you can give yourself a pat on the shoulder and continue. And we take what is outside the bracket and we put that in a bracket. So we'll have x plus 2. Then we just bring down one of the brackets, 3x minus 5. All right, so what's going on in the chat? Let me see. I don't know the flag. So Japanese biker, where are you from? In the 592. On the 592. Land of many waters. Anyways. So let's go. So that is that answer. Nice and easy. 2 marks. So this one here, solve n. This probably go for another 2 marks as well. This one here caused a lot of problems. I can remember this question. This caused a lot of problems with students. I don't know why, but a lot of students left this here blank. So we are asked to solve n. So we have, let me write it back. So we have 4n divided by 4 to the third power is equal to 1 over 4. We're asked to solve n. So we see n is a power, n is an index. So we asked to solve for this. So one thing, we see 4 here, the base here is 4, the base here is 4. All right. And we know when we're dividing, the laws of indices tell us when we're dividing and the bases are the same. When we're dividing and the bases are the same, we subtract the powers. All right. And that would give us the answer. So the thing is 1 over 4. The base here is 4, the base here is 4. So we need to turn this 1 over 4 so that it has a base of 4. And if we are to go in reverse and think of the laws of indices that would turn a normal term into a fraction, you can think of the negative power, the negative base. So the thing is, if we have 4 raised to a certain power, that will make it turn into 1 over 4. And we know when 4 is raised to a negative power, it will put the 4 at the bottom. So we know this will be 4 raised to the negative 1. That would turn it to 1 over 4. 4 raised to the negative 1 is equal to 1 over 4 raised to positive 1 power. All right? Which is the same thing as 1 over 4. So this will be 4n divided by 4 to the third power is equal to 4 raised to the negative 1 power, which is the same thing as what we have at the top here. All right? So now that all the bases are the same, we can just equate the powers. We can just equate the powers to each other. So we know the bases are the same, they're dividing. So that means we must subtract the powers. This will be n subtract 3 will give us a negative 1. Right? Since this power is equal to these things at the top here. So n will simply be equal to negative 3. This is a minus 3. Take over, sorry. N will be equal to negative 1. And this is a minus 3. When we take it over, it will add. So this will be plus 3. So n would be equal to negative 1 plus 3 would give us a positive 2. So n is equal to 2. All right. And if you want to double check and see if your answer is correct, so we see 4 raised to the n power. So 4 raised to the second power divided by 4 raised to the third power. That would give us, we put back the 4 and we subtract the powers, which is 2 minus 3, which will give us 4 raised to the negative 1 power, which is the same as 1 over 4. All right, that's how you can double check your answer there. How we look in chat? 200 you on the lives. 200 you did not have school today. Hope that you're learning. We learning anything? We cook or we cooked or we cooking? All right, so you see the hearts floating across. That means we're learning. So let's continue. All right. So as we go down, you will see the questions will begin to look similar to the ones that we did previously. All right. So, and that is why I'm putting it in this order so that we can see. So why is it mid? All right. So let's go. So the lengths of 3 sides of a trapezium are shown in the diagram below. The area of the trapezium is 750 squared units. So write down the expression in terms of P and Q for the area of the trapezium. So we're dealing with area of a trapezium, and I want us to write down an expression in terms of P and Q. So when you see something that says in terms of P and Q, this means whatever expression you come up with, all you should have in those expressions, in that expression would be P and Q along with some coefficient, and they should be adding or subtracting or multiplying or something. Right? So that's what I mean by in terms of P and Q. You could have other numbers inside, but the only variables you should have would be P and Q. No other variable. That's what I mean by in terms of P and Q. So let's go. So we're dealing with area of a trapezium. So the formula to find area of a trapezium is half the sum of the parallel sides. Half the sum of the parallel sides multiplied by the height. So they wanted they say an expression. So we'll just take out the plus sign and the equal sign. Sorry, the area and the equal sign. We just take it out since they said they want an expression. So it's half the sum of the parallel sides. So this will be half, and the parallel sides be these two sides here, since it's a trapezium. So this will be 4p plus 3q multiplied by the height, which is 6p. And that is the expression we can have. You can go ahead and simplify this. You can simplify this. So let's simplify this. So this is half times this times this. So it's as though you have half times 4 times, I don't know, 30. You can either multiply this half by this 4 fourths, or you can multiply the half by the 30. And, then you multiply the answer by the 4, you get the same answer. So in the same way, we can multiply the half by the 6p. That would give us 3p. And then the 3p can multiply everything in this bracket. So this would be 3p multiplied by 4p plus 3q. And then we can use the distributive law. This will be 3p times 4p, 3 fourths, 12. P times p is p squared. And then 3 times positive 3, that would give us plus 9. And p times q would give us pq. Since this is the expression in terms of P and Q for the area of the trapezium. All right, so this formula will be given to you in the exam, the area of the trapezium. Just if you forget it, just turn to the front of the page. But the formula that will give you, they will tell you area of trapezium is equal to half A plus B multiplied by the height. And they will tell you that A and B are the parallel sides. So A plus B are the parallel sides. So this is the same as half the sum of the parallel sides multiplied by the height. So if something like this come, we have to write the whole warden for area. All right, so next one, given that Q is equal to 2p, determine the value of P. All right, so told us that Q is equal to 2p, determine the value of P. So initially they told us that the area for this thing is 750. All right, the area for this trapezium is 750. So we know this that we found here is an expression in terms of the area of the trapezium. So we can therefore say area is equal to 12p squared plus 9pq. All right, so because it told us this is the expression for the area of the trapezium, that's what we found just now. So they told us two things. The area is equal to 750. So instead of putting back area, we can say 750 is equal to, and they also told us that Q is equal to 2p. So instead of putting back Q, we can put back 2p. So this will be 12p squared plus 9p. And instead of putting back Q, we'll replace that with 2p. That's what it told us. And then we work this out now. Then we work this out. So this will be 750 is equal to 12p squared plus 9 times 2 is 18. P times P is P squared. So 750 will be equal to, so 12p squared plus 18p squared, that would give us 30p squared. And then we just got to solve for p now. So this 30 is multiplying, and we take it over with the 750 to divide. So we'll have 750 divided by 30 is equal to p squared. So 750 divided by 30. That will give us 25 is equal to p squared. So the square now is here, and we take it over to become the square root of 25. So we can say p is equal to the square root of 25. And p is equal to, when we square root 25, we'll have a value of, you'll have a value of 5. So normally when you square root something, you get a positive and negative value. But since you're dealing with measurement and area and so on, it will just be, we'll just take the positive value for p. So p is equal to 5. So that's the answer there. The value of P is 5. And that is how you work out for your 3 marks. Nice and easy. All right. Look at the chat. So let's go back again. Now, as I said, as you go down the years, you will see some of the similar concepts repeat. So I have similar concept, not questions, right? So we have this here, we ask to factorize this. So as they pop up on screen, you can work them out. By the time let me run through the chat. So we did one like this before, we did one like this before. So you should be solid. All right, let's go. So you ask to factorize the following algebraic expression. Good, I see some people don't drop it in the chat. So those of you who are here, we know you just bust two brackets. We have two terms, x squared and 49. They're subtracting each other. We can multiply x by itself to give you x squared. And we can multiply 7 by itself to give us 49. So you just bust two brackets. And in one bracket, we put the thing that we can multiply by itself to give us x. So we put x here and x here. And the same thing for 49. We know we can multiply 7 by 7 to give us 49. So we put 7 there and 7 there. And in one bracket, you add, in the other bracket, you subtract. Or in one bracket, you subtract, and the other bracket, you add. It doesn't matter which one. All right? Doesn't matter the order. And that is that. 1 mark, nice and easy. Say this comes, there's no reason why you should get 0 for this, right? Good. So next one, x squared plus 2x minus 35. Typically go for 2 marks. But in this case, I think it went for 1. Let's go. So we see we have a quadratic. So we have to use the beautiful AC method that we talked about earlier. So we have A, B, and C. So we know A is a number in front of the x squared term, which is 1. B is a number in front of the x term, which is 2. And C is a number in front of, well, the number by itself. So in this case, the number by itself is negative 35. So A times C would be 1 times negative 35, which is equal to negative 35. And then we want, so we already use A and C. We want a number now. When we multiply it, we should get the negative 35. When we add it, we should get B. So what two numbers can we use? I see, all right, I see the person names Snipper. Yeah, let me see, 5, 7, and negative 5. So let me try that. So positive 7 times, or let me do negative 5 times 7 would give us a negative 35 indeed. A negative 5 plus 7 would give us a positive 2, which is what we want exactly. So this is what we're using. So this would be x squared minus 5, and we put back the x, plus 7, and we put back the x again, minus the 35. Replace this here with this, all right? And then we pair off, and then we factorize. So we see in the first bracket, we see the highest common factor there between x squared and 5x is x. So we factored x here, we left with x minus 5. And the second bracket, we factor the plus first of all. Remember when we see plus, gone clear, nice and easy work, light work when there's a plus. So we see 7x minus 35. So we see the highest common factor there is 7. So you factor out the 7 from 7x, we left with x. Factor out 7 from negative to order 5, we left with a minus 5. Hence, in one bracket, we'll have x plus 7, and the other bracket, we'll have x minus 5. We just bring down, put what is outside in the bracket and bring down one of these brackets. And we gonna clear there with our marks. All right? We gonna clear there with our marks. And then they went further to say, hence is a big man. Hence the word hence tells us, we got to use what is at the top to help us get this answer. Hence, simplify the expression x squared minus 49 over x squared plus 2x minus 35. So let me zoom out a little. So the thing is, when you have big fractions like these, algebraic fractions like these, and you ask to simplify, the key thing in simplifying them is to factorize the top and then factorize the bottom and then cancel out the common factors. So we already factorized the top here to get x plus 7 over, sorry, x plus 7 and x minus 7. We already did that. And we already factorized the bottom here to have x plus 7 as one factor and x minus 5. So even if they don't tell you to do what we already did at the top here, but they give you an expression like this to simplify, you factorize. You factorize the top and the bottom. So we have a beautiful thing to cancel out here. We see this entire thing will cancel out with this entire thing. Since we're left with x minus 7 over x minus 5. And this is our answer here for 1 mark. There's a reason why it's worth 1 mark, because you already did the hard work at the top. So Alex is asking when is this finishing? Alex, whenever you want it to finish. If I'm dealing with students who genuinely want to pass, right? Not the students who, like the idea of passing, but don't want to practice, right? So accidentally worked this one here before. Let me delete this quick. But so next we asked to rearrange and show and make M the subject of the formula. And this one went for 2 marks, eh? So 2 marks, I asked make M the subject. Students, when I gave some students this question, they went and they did some fancy mathematics and they end up getting the answer. And then I showed them a nice and easy way how to make it, and they were surprised, right? So you're asked to make M the subject. Making M the subject means we want M by itself. We want to manipulate this equation in such a way that M is by itself. We take over everything else and leave M by itself. All right. So how do we do this? Many students will tell me you take over the K and then you take over the negative and then you take over the square. I mean, you can do that, but that requires a lot of hard work. All right. So we see there's a negative in front here. So what we can do? Well, I'll advise persons to somebody say x minus k square root. All right. Sniper. So what I'll do, I want m to be a positive thing. So I'll take over the minus m, because you can move the m as well. Although you're making that the subject, you can move that too, right? You're not limited to move everything else except the m. You can move the m, you can maneuver the m. So what I'll do, I'll take over the m, the minus m with this s. So I'll have s, and since this is minus here, I'll take it over to add. So plus m squared is equal to k. And then now I have a simple thing to work out. M is positive, so now I can work this out easily. So I take over the s, this s is added, when we take it over, subtract, so we'll have m squared is equal to k, subtract s. Then last but not least, the m is square, m is being squared, when we take over the square, the opposite of square is square root. So we'll have m is equal to the square root of k minus s. Hence, this is the answer for 2 marks. Easiest 2 marks you could ever get in CSEC. are the easiest 2 marks you'll ever get. I think somebody sent this. Somebody sent this answer earlier. Let me see. I think they deleted. No, oh. Yeah, so it's K, right? Not X, but I get, yeah, I get what you did. So that is the answer there. Nice and easy 2 marks. So remember, you can move the M as well. You're not limited to, if you want to change the subject, you're not limited to, keep that in one place. You can change it wrong as well. So I will look in chat. All right, so let's proceed. This one says, Lisa has $56 to buy a total of no more than 70 red balloons and green balloons for her party. She buys more green balloons than red balloons, but must buy at least 15 red balloons. Each red balloon costs $0.75, and each green balloon costs $0.50. Let X and Y represent the number of red balloons and the number of green balloons, respectively. Write two inequalities in X and Y other than X is greater than 0, Y is greater than 0 to represent the information above. All right. So that is what we have to do here. So there are many algebraic, many inequalities you can come up. Not many, probably about 4 you can come up with, or 5. You just have to choose 2 and get the marks, right? So let me try to put as many as you can, and you'll decide which 2 you think best suits you. All right. So the first one. So it says, let me just write down this here. So it says X would be the number of red balloons. Y is the number of green balloons. So first things first, it told us Lisa has $56 to buy more than 70 red balloons and green balloons for her party. She buys more green balloons than red balloons. So the green is greater than the Y. So the first easy inequality we can come up with, green is greater than red. So green is Y. So you can say Y is greater than red, which is X. That is the first nice and easy one you can come up with. And then they also told us that she buys more green and blue, but she must buy 15 red balloons. She must buy at least 15 red balloons. So red is X, so X. So she must buy at least 15 red balloons. If somebody tell you bring at least $1,000, that means it's $1,000 and more, So at least 15 red balloons would be 15 and more red balloons. So X has to be greater than or equal to 15. So that's another one we can come up with. So these are the 2 easy ones you can go, and then you can go along with your day. But if you want to be, complicated and show that you're brilliant, you can also have these here as well. So they told us that she has $56 to buy no more than 70 red balloons and green balloons for her party. All right, and she has so $56 she has to spend in total. All right, and in total she buying 70 red and green balloons. So in total she buying 70 balloons. So our next one we can come up with would be X is the number of red balloons that she buy, plus Y, which is the number of green balloons, has to be, since she bought no more than 70 balloons, this has to be less than or equal to 70. And then the fourth one we can come up with, we can try to come up with one that deals with the money. So she spent $56 in total. So for each red balloon, it's $0.75. So this would be 0.75 times the number of red balloons that she bought, which is X, plus she spent $0.50 plus $0.50 upon the green balloon, and she bought Y green balloons. And she has $56 to spend. So she, of course, she can't spend more than $56. So this should be less than or equal to 56. So the thing is, you can choose any of these two. You could have done the easy way, choose these two, or if you want, show off, you can you can do 3 and 4. All right, but any two, you'll get your marks, all right? All right, so we're gonna have, and these questions come back for paper 2. They don't come back, but the concept come back. It's the concept. You'll have 10 brand new questions for paper 2, but the concept, the idea will come back. So as long as you understand the concept or the idea or the way to work the question, if they change up the wording and so on, you can still work it. All right. Give us the hard ones, sir. Oh, wait, we are talking about these here. All right, I'm now looking at the chat. I'm assuming. All right. So let's proceed. Now this one here. Proportion, relation. So it says given that y is inversely proportional to x minus 2, and x is equal to 11 when y is equal to 9, find the value of y when x is equal to 29. So let me just give you some background. So proportion can come two ways. There is direct proportion and there is inverse proportion. So direct proportion, when you have, let's talk about inverse proportion since that's the one they gave us. So they told us y is inversely proportional to this. So to represent this as an equation, you can say y is equal to, since it's inverse, there's something that we call k. K is always there. K is what we call a constant of proportionality. So k will either multiply something or k will be divided by something. So when it's inverse, k will be divided by what it's inversely proportional to. So this equation will be k divided by x minus 2. So this is the equation that you come up with when it's inversely proportional, right? So sometimes they can tell you y is inversely proportional to, I don't know, x squared. So to represent this, this will be y is equal to k again, divided by what is inversely proportional to. In this case, it's x squared. So this is how you deal with inversely proportional. So when something is directly proportional, or sometimes they will tell you varies directly. So you can look out for the word varies directly or varies inversely. And that can also be written as inversely proportional or directly proportional. Both of them mean the same thing. All right. So if they tell you y, instead of inversely proportional, they tell you directly proportional to x squared, instead of the k dividing, this will be k multiplied by x squared. All right, direct means, you multiply directly. All right, so be on the lookout for the word direct and inversely. All right, so that is a little history on proportionality. If you didn't know that, now you know. Good, so that is that. So the first thing you want to do is come up with the equation. And this is the equation. And then the key thing to find in any proportion question is to find the value, is to find the value of k. All right, k is what we call constant of proportionality, so you need to find that value for us. So how do we find the value of k? By just simply, they will always give you a value of x and a value of y. So we can use those two values to find for k. So it told us x is equal to 11 when y is equal to 9. So we'll have, instead of y, we'll have 9 is equal to k divided by x minus 2. In this case, it will be 11 minus 2. So 9 will be equal to k over x minus 2 will give us 9. So this 9 is divided, and we take it over multiplies. We'll have 9 multiplied by 9 is equal to k. Hence k is equal to 9 times 9 is 81. So the value of k for this question is 81. And that value for k for this question will not change. So it's important to find that for us. So now, the meat of the question, find the value of y when x is equal to 29. So we use back the same equation. So y is equal to k over x minus 2. So they told us they want the value for y when x is equal to 29. So we found the constant of proportionality, which is k, to be 8 to 1. So this will be 8 to 1 divided by the value of x in this case, the total is 29. So this will be 29 minus 2. So y will be equal to 81 over 21 minus 2 is 27. Since y is equal to 81 divided by 27, I'm assuming it's like 3 or 4. 81 divided by 27, yeah, it would be 3. Since y is equal to 3. All right, so y is equal to 3. So we can say, therefore, y is equal to 3 when x is equal to 29. And that is our 2 marks there. How many of you knew about proportion before? All right, how we looking? How we looking? We looking good? We cooking? Let's say comment, like the video, share the video to your friends, like the video so that YouTube can recommend it to people that studying for CSEC. All right. How we looking, chat? How we looking? All right, so I see the reaction flowing up. Let me see. Oh, yeah. All right, so let's go. So that is that. The next one says Laura needs to put mesh around 2 seed beds to protect her seedlings. Altogether, she uses 60 meters of mesh. One of the, all right, K is always in equation, yeah. So one of the seed beds is a rectangle and the other is a square, as shown in the diagram below. The width of the rectangular seed bed is x meters, and the length of the rectangular seed bed is three times its width. The length of a side of the square seedbed is y meters. Using this information, derive a simplified expression for y in terms of x. So earlier, we spoke about what they mean by when they say y in terms of x or a in terms of b and so on. So y will be, so this will be y is equal to some and x. X has to be included in the other part, right? So let's come up with this. Let's derive a simplified expression for y in terms of x. So let's see what it told us. So y has to be the subject here because they want it for y in terms of x. So let's see. So we know that she uses 60 meters of mesh in total. So that means when we roll out this whole mesh, it's 60 meters. So, and then that 60 meters is used to form this shape and then this shape as well. So that is the outside part of the shape. It's like your fence around the shape. And when you're thinking about fencing around, your mind should automatically be going on. Let me see the chat. Let me ask the chat. What concept do we think we have to use here? We're thinking about around the shape. I don't want to use a word because I will give you the answer. What do we use? What is coming to mind when you're thinking about around this shape? A P word, a word that begins with P. What word comes to mind? All right. Use. I see use sent the correct thing there, right? Perimeter. Right? Perimeter. So we should use the concept of perimeter here. So they told us that the perimeter of when you add up this, the perimeter here and the perimeter here would be 60. So we need to find the perimeter for this and the perimeter for this, and we add those two together and equate it to 60. So we see this side is x, so that means this side is also x. And it told us that the width of the rectangular seatbed is x, and the length of the rectangular is 3 times its width. So if the width is x, the length here would be 3 times its width, which would be 3 times x, which would be 3x. So if that side is 3x, this side will also be 3x. And since this is a square, we know this is y, this is y, this is y, and this is y. So we need to come up with an expression for the perimeter here. So the perimeter for that one would just be 3x times x is 4x, 4x plus 3x is 7x, 7x plus x would be 8x. And then for y, it would just be y plus y plus y plus y, which would be 4y. So this is the perimeter for the rectangle, and this is the perimeter for the square. And we know when we add up all of those perimeter, well, both of them will get 60. So this is the equation that we can come up with. The first thing we want to do is form an equation. I always look to form an equation and then work from there. So they want this here now in terms of y. Well, for y in terms of x. So we want y as the subject of the formula. All right, so y in terms of x. So we got to make y the subject so we can take over this 8x. So we have 4y is equal to 60 minus 8x. And then the 4 is multiplying. So when we take it over the divides, we'll have y is equal to 60 minus 8x all divided by 4. So they want a simplified expression. So if you leave your answer there, you're leaving some marks there as well. So we have to simplify this expression. So this 4 is over every single thing. So what this 4 here will be, so this will be y is equal, so this is like I have 60 over 4 minus 8x over 4. The 4 is over everything. So this is a nice way to look at it. So 60 divided by 4 will give us 15, I think, 15. So y is equal to 15, and 8 divided by 4 would give us 2. So 15 minus 2x. And this is the simplified expression for y in terms of x. All right? I'll just simplify the expression for 2 marks. Are we looking good? So the thing is, when they told us, I'm assuming probably in a follow-up question, they'll tell us solve for something. That's what they most times do. So let's see what else it told us. It told us, use the information and your answer in A to write down a quadratic equation in terms of x to show that it simplifies to this answer here. So you're working towards this answer. So you want to, so let me see, I forgot to read this top piece. The area of the rectangular seedbed is equal to the area of the square seedbed. So the area of the rectangular seedbed is equal to the area of the square seedbed. So they want us to use this information above here and get this answer. When we work it out, we should get this answer. All right. So let's go back at the top. So let me come up with, so they told us that this area here, the area for this is equal to the area for this. So to find the area for this, we know it's just simply length times width. So it's length times width. So the length is 3 times the width, which is x. So 3 times x will give us 3x squared. And for the square one, now the area here will be y times y, which would just be y squared. So they told us that two areas are equal to each other. So we equate two areas to each other. So let me bring this down this side here. So we equate the two areas to each other. Now they want us to say, use this information and your answer in A to write down the quadratic equation in terms of x to show that it simplifies to this. So we basically want to use this information here and this information so that we can arrive at that quadratic that is at the bottom. So in this one, it told us y is equal to this. So all we need to do is replace y for this here. So instead of y squared, we'll have 3x squared is equal to, instead of y squared, we'll have 15 minus 2x. And then we simplify this and we should get the answer at the bottom. 15x minus 2x squared, right? Because it's the y replacing. We got to square it. So let me bring this down to the bottom and then work it out. So we got all the hard work there done. So now we got to finish it off. All right, let me finish it off at the top here. So let's do some simplifying. So you'll have 3x squared is equal to, so remember earlier when I said when we squaring brackets, it's basically the bracket times the bracket. This will be 15 minus 2x multiplied by 15 minus 2x. And we work this out. So remember, put back the 3x squared. So we take the first term in the first bracket. This will be 15 multiplied by, and everything in the second bracket. So this will be 15 minus 2x. And we take the second term, which is minus 2x, multiplied by everything in the second bracket, which is 15 minus 2x. And then we work it out. We simplify it. So 15 times 15, let me see, that will give us 225, I think. This will give us 3x squared is equal to 225. And 15 times negative 2x, that will give us negative 30x. And negative 2x times 15 will give us the same negative 30x. And negative 2 times negative 2x, so negative 2 times negative 2 will give us plus 4. X times x will give us x squared. So now remember we are working towards this answer. Let me write the answer that we're working towards. It's x squared minus 60x plus 225 is equal to 0. This is what we're working towards. This is what our answer should be. So let's simplify it. So what we can do, we can just take over this 3. This 3 is here, so we can just take it over this side. So we'll have the equal 0. This will be 0 is equal to 225 negative 30x minus 30x. That'll give us negative 60x. And we can put the plus 4x squared. And then when we take over this 3x, it will become minus 3x, since minus 3x squared, since it was adding here, we take it over to subtract. So 0 will be equal to, so 225 minus 60x. So 4x squared minus 3x squared, that would give us plus x squared. And that is the answer that we have here. So we can just rearrange this and put the x squared minus the 60x plus the 225 is equal to 0. All right, both of them mean the same thing. And that is our answer. Put the QED at the bottom because we showed it. All right, QED, nice and easy marks. So this thing here, all you needed to do, all you need to know, you have to do some substitution, and then you have to use the distributive law to simplify it. And then you have to put the like terms together and so on. So combination of some very simple concepts to get this answer. Sniper, I might sniper careful with the comments, right? I don't want to ban you, right? I know you're very active. You think you're at number one, I think, or number two. But let's not get too distracting, right, with the comments. All right, let's not get too distracted. Focus on the positives and going forward. So that's that answer. So next, it said solve the equation, which is what we have at the top, using the quadratic formula. And this one went for 3 marks. So if you lost, a lot of marks, and you should be at least getting these 3 marks because the quadratic formula will be given to you. Yeah, the quadratic formula will be given to you. So at least you should get 3 marks here. So somebody tell me the quadratic formula quick. Let me see who can type it out quick in the chat. Let me see who's for us. Quadratic formula. Anybody knows it by head? This will be given to you in CSEC though. All right, so it's X. Let me see if anybody get it. Anybody got it? Anybody? All right, so it's X is equal to negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A, right? This will be given to you, right? Just wanted to test the water, see if anybody can recall it from head. So this is a giveaway 3 marks, right? Because all you need to do, the thing is you can use this beautiful tool, which is the calculator, carefully to get your answer, right? So, but it's just for you to do the substitution correctly. So let's identify what is A, B, and C for us. This will help you. So A we see is 1, B is negative 60, and C is 225. So let's do our substitution now. So they told us X will be equal to negative, and we see B is negative 60. So it's negative, negative 60. So don't just think, oh, because a negative is here, I won't put in the negative 60. I just put 60. It's negative B, and B is negative 60. So it's negative, negative 60 plus or minus the square root of B squared, which is negative 60 squared, minus 4 times A. A is 1 times C, which is 225, all over 2 times A, which is 1. So X would be equal to negative times a negative 60 will become a positive 60 plus or minus the square root of negative 60 squared. That should give us 3,600. Yeah, 3,600. 4 times 1 will give us negative 4. Negative 4 times 225. That would give us a negative 9 minus 900 all over 2 times 1 is 2. And then to give us X is equal to 60 plus or minus. So 3,600 minus 900. That'll give us 2,700. So square root 2,700 all over 2. So x would be equal to 60 plus or minus when you square root 2700. You will get 51.961, so on and so forth. So the thing is, CX will tell you wrong to have these numbers correctly to, think 3 significant figures. So this will be 51.96, it should be 52, right? You went wrong to have corrected 3 significant figures. So the plus or minus 52, all divided by 2, and x will be equal to, so now we'll have 60 plus 52, all divided by 2 as one of the answer, and x will be equal to 60 minus 52, all divided by 2 as the other answer. So x will be equal to 60 plus 52, that will give us 112. 112 divided by 2 will give us 56, and x will be equal to 56. 60 subtract 52 is equal to 8, all divided by 2 will give us 4. So x is equal to 4 and 56. Anybody got any answers close to those? I see 55.98 or 4.02. All right, we can work with that. We can work with those. All right, we can work with those. All right, we can work with those. So that is that, 3 marks. If you didn't get anything for these questions, at least, all you need to do is do a substitution and work carefully. Use your calculator and work carefully and get 3 easy marks. What if you don't round up? Don't worry about that. You'll get your marks. As long as the answer is correct, your steps are correct, don't stress too much about rounding off. Just make sure if you round off, you do it correctly, right? But just be careful. Is this supposed to be 56 or 4 or 56 and 56 and 4? Both of them are answers. All right. Explain how 60 become positive. All right. So remember, it's negative. It's like you got negative. It's negative times negative 60. Remember, it's negative b. And b is equal to negative 60. So the negative 2 negatives will turn into a positive. There's where you end up with positive 60. All right. Good. All right. The persons in the chat explaining. Excellent. Keep doing that. All right. I may not see all the questions. Whosoever want to explain to somebody in the chat, help out somebody, right? As you see it. When you explain more to people, you learn more for yourself. All right. So let's go. Calculate the total area of the 2 seat beds. So let's go. Area of the 2 seat beds. How much marks is this going for? 2 marks. So we found the values for x and we found the values for y. So where are the areas for the 2 seat beds? Area. Where did we find the area? Oh. So the totals initially, the 2 areas are equal to each other, right? So what we can do, 3 times x is 3x squared. So all we need to do, so the area is 3x squared. So the total area for the 2 seat beds, so let's use our values here to get the total area for the 2 seat beds. I wonder which values we use, boy. Both of them are positives. Did I do something wrong? 60, minus. Yeah, man. My answers are correct. So hence calculate the area of the 2 seat beds. So which values do we use? Do we use the 56 or the 4? So let me see. So let me see. Earlier we found the perimeter. It told us the perimeter is 60. So let's see. So we found two values for x, which will be 56 and 4. So let me see. Y is equal to 15 minus um, let me see, 3 4 is 12. 12 and 12 is 24. 24 and 4, that is 24 and 8, that is 32. And y is equal to 15 minus, so I'm just doing some calculations to see which one of the values we use. So y is equal to 15 minus 2 times 4. Y is equal to 15. 2 4 is 8. So we'll use the smaller number, right? We'll use the smaller number, which is 4. So we can say hence the total area for the two seed box would be 3 times x, which is 4 squared. So 4 4 16. 16 times 3. 16 times 3 would give us 48. So 48 is the value for one of the seed box. So, and it told us that the areas for the two seed box are the same. So we can just say 48 times 2 would give us 96. Hence, we can say the area for the total seed box would be 96 meters squared. All right, for 2 marks. All right, so Stephen. Yeah, so that's that, right? 96 meters. All right, so let's go on. So the reason why I choose 4 is because 4, when I substitute 4 for the perimeter, when I substitute 4 for the perimeter, that allows it to be, that allows me to get the 60 meters, right? If I had substituted the other value, which is 56, that won't give us the perimeter. So that was my reasoning, right? Why I use 4 instead of 56, because we found two values for x. All right, so I use the one that would give me the perimeter. That allowed me to make a decision. All right. So this one was a bit of a thinker, one that you had to think a bit, right? So let's go simplify. So we did one like this earlier. Let me see. What do we do? We have to simplify this for 2 marks. They didn't tell us to do anything else before. I give if those of you who are here from the beginning, you know, what we'll have to do for this. What did I say we do when we have like a fancy expression, a quadratic at the top, another quadratic at the bottom? What do we do in order to simplify this? Let me see who's thinking. Somebody drop it quick. Let me see. Close out the chat. Come back and see. Anybody can tell me what do I do? All right. Bacchus. Very good. Before you do that though, Stephen, we gotta factorize, right? Corwin is correct as well. So we gotta factorize the top, factorize the bottom. So we see we can't use difference of 2 squared at the top because this is x squared. I mean, we can multiply something by itself to give you x squared, but we cannot multiply something by itself to give us 7x. So we got to factorize the top piece. So we can just simply use the distributive law way of factorizing, meaning just pull out the common factor. So we see the common factor at the top would simply be x. So you factor the x, you're left with x plus 7. X plus 7. And what about the bottom? Bottom, we see we have x squared and we have 49. And we know that is a beautiful difference of 2 squared. So we just open two brackets. And in one bracket, you see we have x. The other bracket, we have x. And the other bracket, we have 7 and we have 7. This will be plus and this will be minus. I'm going through this here because we did lots of these in the oralies. So now we just cancel out as somebody said, right? So this here will cancel out with this piece. So hence we'll be left with x over x minus 7. And this is our answer there for 2 marks. So from the time you see that a complicated fraction at the top divided by another complicated fraction divided by another expression at the bottom, you have a complicated expression at the top divided by a complicated one at the bottom. Just factorize it, and then you'll see one of the factor will be the same as one at the bottom, and you cancel those and you put back what is left. All right, nice and easy there. And this one again, find the value of r when x squared times x to the 6th power is equal to xr, x to the r power. So once again, as I said, when you go through these questions, you'll start to see a pattern. And remember, you can't test these things in no other fancy way. So that is why you'll see a pattern in how they come. So we did one like this before. All of the bases are already the same, so there's nothing big and fancy to do. All we do is we take x, well, x multiplied by x. When the terms are multiplying, we add the indices. So this will be 2 plus 6 is equal to r. Hence, r would simply be equal to 8. So that is the value for r. All right? Nice and easy. 1 mark there. And the next one, they want the value for s when s to the 3rd power is equal to 8. So to solve for this here, x to the 3rd power is equal to 8. This is going for 1 mark. So this will simply be equal to s would simply be equal to, you take over the cube, it will become the cube root of 8. And s would be equal to the cube root of 8 would be, 2 times 2 times 2 will give us 8. Hence, the cube root of 8 would simply be 2, right? Nothing big and fancy, 1 mark. When you see these 1 mark questions, just know, nothing big and fancy you have to do. How long have you been on? Anybody went on since the beginning? Anybody on since the beginning? I mean, exam coming up in a few, right? We on since 1, so we about, just when we cross the 2 hour mark. So I'll be back in 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds. So we back. All right. So let's proceed. This one says the diagram below shows a triangle and a quadrilateral. All the angles are in degrees, are written in terms of A and or B. For the triangle, show that 2A plus 56 is equal to, 2A plus 5B is equal to 171. How do we show that? So to show this, what do we do? We see, as I told you, these questions, when you have to show, you have to think about the information that you're given. So first of all, we see that we're dealing with angles and it's a triangle. So our mind should immediately go on, angles in a triangle. The sum of angles in a triangle is 180 degrees. So we know when we add up this 180, we'll get, when we add up the 180, we will get, then we add up all these angles, we get 180. So this will be, we take this first angle, which is A plus 2B, plus add the other angle, which is 3B, plus we add the other angle, which is A plus 9, and this will give us 180 degrees. And we just got to simplify this, and this will give us this. So you put all the like terms together. So we see this A here and this A. This will be A plus A and plus 2B plus 5B, which is these things here. And then we take over the 9 with the 80. So this will be 180 minus 9. And hence this will be A plus A is 2A, 5B plus 2B, which gives us 7. So I made a mistake here. This should be 3B, right? 3B. So 2B plus 3B would give us 5B, and hence this is equal to 171. And that is how we show that. Right? Nice and easy 1 mark. Nice and easy 1 mark to show. All right. All right. Santa Rosa, Westboro, QC. St. Joseph, PSS. PSS, what school is that? So that is that. Nice and easy there. For the quadrilateral, they want us to show the same thing. So somebody tell me quick, what is the sum of the angles in a quadrilateral? When you add up all the angles in a quadrilateral, what do you get? It's a 4-sided shape. When you add up the angles in a quadrilateral, what is the sum of that? So 360, right? So all we need to do is add up all the angles in a quadrilateral to get 360. So let me do that quick. So this will be 6A plus, and we add up 3A plus 2B. And then we add plus 18 plus 3B plus 3B minus 2A. And this will be equal to 360. All right, and we simplify this to get this thing that they want us to show. So 6A plus 3A, that will give us 9A. And we put all the other A's together. So we put this will be minus 2B. And then we, sorry, not 2B, this is minus 2A. And you put the plus 2B plus 3B plus 3B. And that would equal to 360. So we know what is this. We got to take over the 18. It will become minus 18. So set 9A minus 2A would give us 7A. 2B plus 3B plus 3B will give us 6B. 6B plus 2B will give us plus 8B is equal to 360 minus, they get 180 from 360 minus 18 will give us 342. Okay, and this is how we show that for 1 mark, right? Nice and easy 1 mark. So those are some basic stuff. So solve the pair of simultaneous equation in 1 and 2 to find the values of A and B. So did they give us any other thing? What did they tell us? Yeah, so they want us to solve this pair of simultaneous equation. So we have, in one equation, we have 2A plus 5B is equal to 171. And the other one, we have 7A plus 8B is equal to 342. Even if it didn't show this, you should know that we have these two equations because they gave us this here and they gave us this here. So you want to use that to solve this here now. So let me bring this down. So to solve this, I know students love, you love solving these things. You love solving simultaneous equations. So this should be fairly easy. This is one of the fan favorite. So I'll use the elimination method. So I multiply the top here by this 7. I multiply the bottom here by this 2. So I'll have 2A times 7, which would be 14A, plus 5B times 7. 7 5 35. So this will be 35B. And is equal to 171 times 7 would give us 1,197. And multiply the bottom by 2. 7a times 14a would give us, 7a times 2 would give us 14a. 8b times 2 would give us 16b. And 342 times 2 would give us 684. So to get rid of, remember this is called the elimination method. So we want to eliminate the variable. So to eliminate the A, we'll just subtract the like terms from both equations. So this will be 14A subtract 14A plus 35B subtract 16B. This will be equal to 1,197 subtract 684. So 14A subtract 14A, that would be 0. That cancels out. 35B subtract 16B. 35 subtract 16 would give us 19B. And this is equal to 1,197 subtract 684. That would give us 513. And B would be equal to 513 is 19 is multiplying, take it over, divide. So 513 divided by 9. B would be equal to 27. So the value of B is 27. And then we can use that value of B to find for A. So we can use either equation 1 or equation 2. It doesn't matter. So you can say we'll substitute B equal 27 in, let's use equation 1 since that's easier. So you'll have 2A plus 5 times B, which is 27, is equal to 171. So 2A plus 5 times 27, that would give us 135 is equal to 171. Hence 2A would be equal to 171 subtract 135. 2A is equal to 36. A would be equal to 36 divided by 2. That would give us 18. Since we can say A is equal to 18, B is equal to 27. All right. Nice and easy. Favorite, fun favorite. All right, it should be 19, right? 19. All right, good. So that's the answer. Three. You think is this went for 3 marks? Was this hard for 3 marks? I'll be honest with me, man. Be honest. Was this hard for 3 marks? Was it? All right, good. Yeah, it wasn't, right? It wasn't hard at all for 3 marks. So let's go. So we done here now. Good. So we have here now, we have some things to simplify. As I said, when we go down, you'll see concepts repeating. So we have simplify 4 over 5x times 15x over 16. So we can work, so let me zoom up. So the thing is, we can multiply the top by the top and then the bottom by the bottom. Or before we do that, we can even simplify it to make it easier. So 4 ones 4, 4 into 16, 4. 5 ones 5, 5 into 15, 3. And this x will cancel to this x. So we end up with 1 times 3, which is 3, and 1 times 4, which is 4. So 3 over 4. 1 mark. All right, very good. Now we're asked to solve this now. So first thing I'll do, 2 marks, nice and easy. I love this. You should love these kind of things. So you want to bring all the m's on this side. Just bring all the m's. So we'll have negative 4m, and this is minus. So when we take it, so it become plus 8m is less than or equal to, leave back the 5. We carry over the 12, it will become minus 12. So negative 4m plus 8m, that would give us a positive 4m is less than or equal to 5 minus 12. That would give us a negative 7. We have a negative 7 there, so we have 4m is less than or equal to negative 7m. So before I do this last step, let me just check this thing. So good. So the next thing we want to do, this 4 is multiplying this m, and we take double divides, we'll have m is less than or equal to negative 7 divided by 4. So m would be less than or equal to negative 7 divided by 4. That would give us a negative 1.75. All right. So our answer here is a negative 1. M is less than or equal to negative 1.75. So let's test this answer. Let's test this answer. Let's just say, we're not sure about our answer. So let's test to make sure that what we did is correct. All right. So let's test. Let's test and make sure that what we did is correct. So they told us m is less than this. So m is less than or equal to this. So let's try a number less than this. Let's try, we see 2, negative 2 is less than this. So let's see if negative 2 will satisfy this inequality. So this is 12. So we try negative 2, right? So it's 12 minus 4 times negative 2 is less than or equal to 5 minus 8 times negative 2. So this will be 12 minus, negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 2. That will give us a plus 8. is less than or equal to 5, -8 times -2 will become plus 16. So this will be 12 plus 8 is 20, is less than or equal to 5 plus 16 is 21. So this checks out. This is actually correct. This 20 is less than 21. So that checks out, right? So that's how we can check to make sure our answer is correct, right? So you want to do that check in case you're a little bit iffy. Because some people may be thinking, okay, this is a negative here, and we dividing, we flip wrong. So no, we only flip wrong when we are dividing by the negative, right? Or multiplying by the negative. Somebody's asking, it won't go over and turn -4. All right, so I'll leave that to somebody to answer in the chat. Let me see. Somebody answer Pigot in the chat. Joanna Pigot. Let me see who will answer. I'll come back and check it out just now. So this one says the diagram below shows a compound shape LMNPQR made from two rectangles. The lengths in the diagram, which are written in terms of x, are in centimeters. Find an expression in terms of x for the length PQ. PQ is PQ. PQ is right here. Well, nobody's answering Joanna's yet. Oh my, come on, folks. So PQ is here. So they want, in terms of x, the length of PQ. So we see this entire length here is 3x. And you see up to here is x plus 3. So that means up to here is x plus 3. So Maria says no, because the 4 is multiplying. So multiplying m, so when it goes over, it will divide. Very good. Thank you, Maria. Right? So the 4 is actually multiplying. So when it goes over, it will divide. It's not adding, it's multiplying. So the operation will change when it goes over the inequality sign or the equal sign. All right, thank you, Maria, for person to send it. Anyways, look at back to this question. So we want to be careful with this one here, right? Don't lose marks easily for this one here at all. So we see this entire thing is 3x. So to find for PQ, so we can say PQ will be, so it's 3x, which is the whole length. And we have to subtract out this piece here, which is minus x plus 3. So we have to put that x plus 3 in bracket because we are minusing it out. And when you're dealing with minus and so on, you need to be very careful and make sure you put in brackets, especially after minus this whole term. All right, so you can't put 3x minus x plus 3. This is wrong. All right, this will be wrong. You'll get a wrong answer. If you do this, you'll be wrong. So you have to put minus in bracket like that. Very careful. So why do we put in minus? Because the entire thing has to minus the 3x. So as I said earlier, when you're dealing with minus, it's a tricky situation. You need to be careful. So this negative sign here has to actually distribute throughout this entire thing here in order to get rid of those brackets. So this will actually become 3x minus x minus 3. Right? As opposed to if we just put 3x minus x plus 3, this will be wrong. So you just need to be careful there. So this will actually simplify to 2x minus 3. And that is the answer there. All right, 2x minus 3. So when you're dealing with minus, when you're minusing an entire bracket and so on, be very, very careful. You will lose easy marks by that. When you're adding now, adding, you don't care about brackets and so on. Adding won't change anything, but minusing, those things have an impact. So that is why you put the term in bracket when you're minusing. All right, so let's proceed. I want RQ now. RQ, which is from here to here. So we see this entire thing So you see this entire thing is this. This entire thing is this, and up to here is this. So RQ, we gotta subtract out this piece. All right. So this will be, now let me zoom out a little. So this will be 4x minus 5. Subtract, and we put in bracket again this piece at the bottom here, since that is equal to x plus 1. So subtract x plus 1. And then we do the same thing, we distribute the negative throughout. This will be 4x minus 5 minus x minus 1. Because a negative times x will become a negative x. A negative times positive 1 will become a negative 1. All right, so this will be 4x minus x minus 5 minus 1. We just put the like terms together. And this will be 3x minus 6. What year is this? So I'm working from 2021 all the way to 2026. Hopefully we'll make it so far. But this is probably, I'm not sure what year is this, but this is one of the years in number 2. All right. We are going in order. So if you are following, you'll see the order. So I'm not sure which year this is. We work quite a few. So it's not random questions. It's throughout the years, right? It's one of the years. I did some year between 2021 to 2026. Probably we at the middle, probably it's about 2023, 2022, around there. Need. So let's go. Next one. Given that the total area of the shape is 414, show that x plus x squared plus x minus 72 is equal to 0. All right. So what time is it? How long have you been? So I think I'll stop at this question. All right. Let me see. Yeah, I think I'll stop at this question. Let's see. So we want to show that the area is this. So they told us that the area of the shape is this, and we want to show this. So let's go back to the shape. So this is probably worth about 3 marks. Let me see. Yeah, I think this is worth about 3 marks because there's a lot of work you gotta do. So let me zoom up now. So the thing is, we need to find the area of, well, we need to find an expression for the area for the shape. And then equate that to 414. So so we already found what PQ is. We found PQ and we found RQ. So we found RQ to be 3x minus 6, 3x minus 6 RQ, 3x minus 6. If you didn't get these answers correct, that means you won't get this one correct. So I can split the shape into 2. I can split it down there. And I can find the area for shape 1 and then the area for shape 2. And then I'll add those 2 areas together and work it out, and I should get the thing that they want me to show. So this is the rectangle. So area of shape 1 would be the length times the width. So this would be x plus 3 multiplied by 3x minus 6. All right. So once again, we have some amount of algebraic, well, not algebra, distributive law again. So you need to know the distributive laws. You can see we've used the distributive law so many times. If you didn't know to use the distributive law, then you can't pass this. You can't answer these questions. All right, so you need to be solid with the distributive law. So I'll take the first term, which is x, multiplied by 3x minus 6. And then the second term, which is plus 3 multiplied by 3x minus 6. So somebody's asking when I'm coming. So I'll be back again tomorrow and then on the 8th, right? I'll work a different set of questions, but you can go and finish off the other algebra question from the things that you learn here. So I will be back tomorrow, right? All right. So we distribute now. So this will be x times 3x will give us 3x squared. X times minus 6 will give us minus 6x. 3 times 3x would give us plus 3 is 9x. 3 times negative 6 would give us a minus 3 6 is 18. So this would be 3x, negative 6 plus 9x, negative 6x plus 9x, that would give us plus, so 3x squared plus 3x minus 18. And that is for shape 1. And then for shape 2, I can see it's simply 3x multiplied by x plus 1. So this will be 3x times x would give us 3x squared. 3x times 1 would give us plus 3x. And this would be for shape 2. So now I can put those two together. So let me go down to the bottom. So I found this one here. So let me bring this down. This is shape 1. This is shape 2. So now this is shape 1, this is shape 2. And told us the total area is 414. So we just add those two together now. So we'll have 3x squared plus 3x minus 18 plus 3x squared. So let me just, oops. So let me just carry this up a bit. Plus 3x. And it told us that this is equal to 414. So the reason why I don't put any fancy brackets because it's adding. When you're adding, the signs will not change. So I can just add them and just put back the same term. So let's put all the like terms together. So this will be 3x squared plus 3x squared plus 3x. So I have these two together. Plus 3x minus 18. And I can bring over this 414. And that will become minus 414. And that will be equal to 0. So I'm shaping up to get this answer here. So 3x squared plus 3x squared will give us 6x squared plus 3x plus 3x will give us 6x and negative 18 minus 414. That would give us minus 432. And that would be equal to 0. However, we did not get what is at the top here. But if you're here since the beginning, what do we do with this equation here to get what is at the top? This question was probably worth like 4 marks, man. 4 or 3 marks. Right? So what do we do? Tell me, the people who are here since the beginning. Maybe they had a question like this earlier. Let me see. Let me see who will get it for us. And I'll big that person up. Nobody? All right. All right, so these fancy names. I see Limpy Zim. I hope that's not your real name, Limpy. So I see Limpy Zim says divide by 6. We divide everything by 6, right? So we divide everything by 6. 6x squared divided by 6 will give us x squared plus 6x divided by 6 will give us x. Negative 432 divided by 6 will give us negative 72. And 0 divided by 6 will obviously be 0. Hence, that is how we show that QED. Remember, this is what we want to show, right? This is what we want to show. So we divide by 6 so that we can arrive at that. Just like if we have 5 over 10, and we want to show that this is a half, we just divide everything by 5 to get the half. All right? So that is that. And we've been live for about, how long? 2 hours. I trust that this live was helpful. Those of you that enjoyed it, we'll be back again tomorrow at 1 o'clock again, and I'll be tackling another concept. Today we looked at algebra. I trust that you learned a lot in algebra, hopefully. Um, did you learn anything? Was it helpful? Come and tell me so feel encouraged to come again tomorrow. So when you come tomorrow, tell your friend you learn a lot so that, you will have more persons again tomorrow. My exam is coming up in like 30 days. So you gotta keep pushing. How was it? Yeah, tell me if you learned so I'll be motivated to come back. 4 hours? Nah, man. Was anybody on from the beginning? Anybody was on since the beginning? Top in the algebra. Okay, Corbin. All right. So anyway, so y'all take care. I'll see you tomorrow. Tell your friends. Share the video. Be back again at 1 o'clock tomorrow. All right, we'll be looking at by the way, y'all want me to look. Let me ask y'all. What do you think we should look at? Which number? Which number should we look at? Which topic? Which concept? Okay, I'm more going to study other subjects. You don't need maths. All right, so y'all take care. I'll read the comments on the topic after the video. So if it doesn't come on the live vectors, matrices, circumference questions, functions, maybe function. You know what? Functions is a good one to look at. So yeah, or trigonometry. Yeah, let's see. Join tomorrow, and I can tell you, I look at something that will definitely you'll probably see popping up on your paper, right? So take care. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.